My name's Paul Thomas, and this evening we're going to discuss 6 months into the Biden presidency. With me are Thaddeus Paul-Hamas, Judy Schickelgrover, and Dan Thomas. Hey, Dan. Question, and just ask about what happened yesterday and today in regard to this infrastructure bill that passed with 67 senators, 17 Republicans. I'm not saying the bill passed. I'm saying the motion to proceed to debate passed. So how do you think that's going to play out? There's a lot of talk about it so far, but I want to hear your view on that particular thing. Dan, let's start with you.
Okay, well, your use of the word bill is very strong because nothing's written down yet. And that's the first misnomer. They came to an agreement on what they think should go into the bill for what they are calling hard infrastructure or traditional infrastructure, or lots of words saying that we're not investing in the American people. So they did come to an agreement on that because our roads and bridges are crumbling and we need a lot of federal money to put forth to fix that. And we've been trying to do infrastructure for a really long time. And for whatever reason, we can't overcome some hurdle. Who's going to pay for it? How's it getting paid for? We can't write this bill without figuring out how to pay for it, despite all the money we sink into the military every year with no source of revenue there. So they came to an agreement for what they can put into the bill. Now they have to figure out who or what actually goes into the bill. They have to put that on paper, and that is what they have to vote on. Senator Schumer was really optimistic that they could get that vote done by next week, is how I believe
They're
it turned
going on
out.
break. They're going on August break for a month shortly, so they have to get it done by then, or else it's.
Yeah, I want a job where I can have just a month off to do whatever I want, but whatever. Like, I want that built into my annual calendar. But yeah, I don't think that they're nearly there yet. I am assuming that Schumer has a staff of people who have written a bunch of stuff that once they once they've had whatever point goes into the agreement, then they're just cutting and pasting and putting something together that everybody's going to be looking at. But the the only the only real progress I see being made here is the expansion of rural broadband services. And originally, when this had the human infrastructure and the higher price tag, they were also talking about inner city broadband services, which I was unaware of this, but apparently huge cities like New York and Los Angeles have neighborhoods where you can't get broadband internet because it was just never built there. So now there was going to be money allocated to make sure that those people had it. I don't know that's not getting talked about anymore. All I hear is the term rural being thrown around. So we shall see. But as far as I know, yesterday it wasn't on paper yet. I heard an interview with Secretary of Transportation Mayor Pete saying that exactly that point. Like, they got the agreement, now they have to write the agreement down.
They managed to overcome the filibuster with the 67 votes. Judy, how optimistic are you that this thing is going to see some fruition here down the line?
Well, first I want to say that rural broadband would be a good thing. But the next thing is that this is we had talked earlier today, someone had mentioned the fact that what we would like is people to agree on a set of facts and then to have bipartisanship or whatever. So we would get something done in this country. It seems to me that if Congress cannot get together to do something about bridges that are falling and potholes all over the place, and various things like that that are completely obvious to everyone in America, they will never get anything done. But I almost think this is the crumbling infrastructure, the physical infrastructure that they have concentrated on now, as opposed to human infrastructure, is something so obvious that, I mean, don't they have to come to agreement on this? I'm slightly optimistic.
Thaddeus, the MSNBC talking heads were really doing high energy victory laps yesterday, saying that, you know, Biden's a genius and so is Chuck Schumer for getting us this far. Do you share that optimism?
For once, I'm taking MSNBC with a large grain of salt. You know, I want to be optimistic. You know, I have to have my car fixed because of going over potholes that threw it out of a line and things like that. And my optimism for this particular package getting put together and getting passed on a bipartisan basis, I'd like to see it be tripartisan, but that might be too kinky for America.
Remember, Bernie is an independent, so technically it is tripartisan if he votes for it.
That's true. But I think that if the people, you know, like the us's, the voters, or I say the voter/taxpayers, keep their mouths open and flapping to their representatives, we might actually get something done on this, because people are going to be hearing from voters no matter what their party affiliations are. And they say, well, I am going to lose votes if I don't put this through. I think that no matter what party you are, if you're on Capitol Hill and you don't fix the potholes, you're not going to get reelected. I think some of them are starting to just get an inkling of that. Maybe. We got a maybe going here.
Here come the judge. Here come the judge. Everybody know that he is the judge.
I've been back and forth on whether Merrick Garland's DOJ is worthy of praise or disdain. A few episodes back, Judy, Thad, and I all agreed that he was doing a decent job arresting and charging a number of January 6th insurrectionists. Then I heard that he is continuing the Barr initiative to defend Trump against the defamation lawsuit filed by one of Trump's rape victims. Have yet to hear anything about all of Trump's criminal attempts to overthrow the constitutionally established government, which he continues to do as the next president. On the other hand, it was recently announced that a DOJ filed lawsuit challenging Georgia's voter suppression laws. I know it's early and prosecutable white-collar crimes require a lot of time to investigate. But God damn it, the House managers provided a brilliant presentation on the crime Trump committed. Do you think Merrick Garland is dragging his feet on the issue of Trump's crimes as president? Do you think Attorney General Garland will ever charge Trump for those crimes? Judy, we talked about 2383 last time, that Trump was guilty of that crime. Do you think Garland should or will charge Trump for that?
Well, first of all, I think that my impression of Merrick Garland is that he's extremely careful and he follows his own course. And I think the worst thing that could happen is that he would charge Trump and then Trump would be acquitted. And I think Garland would not, if Trump were to be acquitted, is what I meant to say there. But I think Garland is not going to proceed unless he, being as careful as he is, unless he has a sort of ironclad case. On the other hand, recently there have been a few things they've done that have kind of indicated where he's coming from. Like, didn't they tell Justice Department tell Mo Brooks that they would not defend him, that he was not operating within the scope of his government employment when he gave that speech on January 6th. And also,
Yeah, that deserves to be put in the plus column, by refusing to represent Mo Brooks. That's a plus.
that is a plus. I don't understand the Jean Carroll decision, but I haven't looked into that enough. But then the other thing is, they've told the deputy attorney general, the former deputy attorney general, and people such as he, that they don't have to, that they are allowed to testify in front of Congress, that executive privilege will not prevent it. I mean, those are pretty bold moves right there coming in the last few days. So I probably would be accused of kind of defending the justice system, but I do think that he's going to move, Garland is going to move in his own time, in his own way, uninfluenced by what anyone else might think he should do. So, while there were a number of prosecutors who said they would prosecute the obstruction of justice claims in the Mueller report, there were hundreds of them that said that. They didn't say that they would do that without further investigation and without careful consideration. So I don't want him to do something and get Trump off the hook, that would be my worst outcome in all of this.
Dan, Judy made some really good points. I know I'm an impatient man, and maybe that came out in that question, but how do you think Merrick Garland is doing so far?
I think Merrick Garland is doing the best he can with the situation that he has been handed. I don't know enough about the crimes that Trump has committed while president. I mean, I believe that they are there, but I am not a legal expert. So there is a line to be towed, and presidents do have a history of getting away with this. I just recently learned the intricacies of Iran-Contra, and I can't believe that Oliver North hasn't died in prison. So I think the chance of Merrick Garland actually getting a crack at Donald Trump is probably pretty slim. But every day I thank God that Tish James got out of bed and she chose violence. So she'll get him. I have no doubt that she's got the whole organization will be crippled by the charges that she has brought. And every time any member of the Trump family gets on front of a camera, they openly acknowledge the tax scheme that they were running with their CFO or COO or whatever that guy is, where this is a crime. You keep on admitting to this crime. Please admit to the crime a little bit louder.
So you see more accountability coming from the New York Attorney General than you do from Merrick Garland.
I do.
Okay. Thaddeus, we said that he was doing okay with the insurrectionists. What about the other stuff? You okay with Merrick Garland?
Well, I want to be okay with Merrick Garland. And what Judy just said about him points up the fact that I am an absolute legal layman, and he is dealing with a lot of intricate, complex issues here, and he knows a whole lot more facts than you or I or any of us out here in public land are going to know. So I am hoping that what he is doing is upholding the Constitution. I'm hoping that he is going to bring guilty people to justice. But at this point, I don't even want to hazard the wildest guess as to when or how much he's going to accomplish.
So the advice y'all are giving to me is try to be more patient, which I will.
Yeah.
After the bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection died in the Senate as a personal favor to Moscow Mitch, Speaker Pelosi established her own select committee in the House to investigate the insurrection. Amid whining from many Republicans of the blatant partisanship by Nancy, yesterday, or was the day before, they had their first hearing with the 4 cops. How do you envision this select committee structure playing out in terms of political advantage or disadvantage to either side of the aisle, as well as in terms of saving our democracy? It was a very big first day of hearings. How do you see it playing out in the long run? Thaddeus, we'll let you start out on this one.
Well, it's hard to say at this early date, but one thing that struck me in the wording of your question was the whining by Republicans about partisanship. These are the same people who refused to participate in something that was started up by Democrats. So they refused to participate. Then we're stuck with nobody but Democrats. Sorry, they tried to be bipartisan, and the head of the Republicans in the House sent a couple of the worst bad actors that he had. You know, what were they to expect? I hope that we will get to the bottom of things. The people, everybody has a right to know what really happened and who was really in charge. But I have a feeling that the partisan committee here is partisan because so many of the Republicans are, they have criminal exposure in this area. Mm-hmm. And they don't want it. You know, they will do anything to avoid having it fully investigated. So
yes, speaking of criminal exposure and the bad actors, Jim Jordan seems to be pretty deep into this. He actually admitted that he did have phone conversations with the president on January 6th. What about the political advantage or disadvantage, Dan? How do you see it happening for the Democrats or Republicans?
Well, Nancy can just wring her hands at the accusations of being too partisan and say, I got Liz and Adam. I mean, they're horrible people. I'm sure Liz teaches a class on waterboarding, and I don't want to know what Adam gets into, but they are actual Republicans who they valued their lives over loyalty to Donald Trump and political power, but they're real legit Republicans. So the commission is quite bipartisan. They're both there. They're arguing from that shared set of facts. Someone came here to kill us. Jim Jordan, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene. These people either all actually believe that there was something, that this was just all fine, or they are terrified of their own potential criminal exposure. Kevin McCarthy does not want to be called as a witness. They do not want Donald Trump to have to go in front of Congress and swear an oath, talk under oath, excuse me. So they will do anything to prevent that, because we know what happened to Bill Clinton, and Donald Trump isn't president anymore. So you can't impeach him again for the impeachment that he already beat. But if he lies to Congress, that is yet again, another crime that Merrick Garland will pursue him for, because we're going to watch him commit it. So I think that the whining about bipartisanship is 100% disingenuous. They are all trying to protect the interests of the party and keep out of their own legal exposure. And the theatrical performance that they did to do it resulted in just some reporter shouting at Matt Gaetz, "Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile? Are you a pedophile?" over and over again until he had to run away. So I don't like the Republicans' chances here. Their arguments sound cynical, and they've decided to put their chief pedophile in charge of defending Donald Trump and preventing this from going anywhere. And we learned yesterday how to defeat him. You just ask him the question about his activities over and over again, and he runs away.
Judy, do you see any advantage at all for the Republicans in the way they've handled this thing, this select committee, bipartisan investigation, the commission, any of it?
I see no advantage for Republicans. You have to sympathize with Nancy Pelosi, who called Kevin McCarthy a moron the other day.
She's not wrong. Not wrong.
Got to agree with her.
Not wrong. But one thing I think that gives, she was brilliant in, I think, rejecting, for heaven's sakes, Jim Jordan, but also in appointing Liz Cheney and then whatever his name is, Adam Kinzinger. Because somebody pointed out that now media coverage, where if Jim Jordan were on this committee or someone like him, the media coverage would cover him. It would cover his misinformation, his disinformation. It would be the both sidesism. And now you have Liz Cheney and Kinzinger, I can't say that word, asking reasonable questions, fact-based questions, and there's no propaganda that the Republicans are gaining from being on a committee like this. So I think if this keeps up the way it was yesterday or whenever that was, this will be a whole different kind of thing than it would otherwise have been. So I think I see an advantage for the Democrats in this. I see an advantage for the country in this.
I agree with you all. Okay, thanks, Judy, Dan, Thaddeus. We had a great discussion.